I used the same exact essay to pass 3 different classes. This all started 3 years ago in my junior year of high school. That's kind of the age that you figure out what you want to do with your life, and that's exactly what I was doing. I was taking a bunch of video and photography classes because I knew that's what I wanted to do for my career. I really enjoyed that part of school, and then there were the core classes. I was pretty good at school in general, but that does not mean I enjoyed all the classes. For most of my life up to that point, I made it a goal to take mostly honors classes. These are just a small step up in difficulty, but I knew taking those would look a lot better for applying for colleges. And I was able to do pretty well in all the classes, until 9th grade English. For whatever reason, I just have a really hard time reading, which was half of the class, and I wasn't super great at writing, which was the other half. So that was the first time I got a decently bad grade. I don't even remember what it was, but it was enough for me to take regular English instead of honors from then on. So I got through 10th grade English fine, and then for 11th grade English, the class was laid out really interestingly. Basically, the entire year we were working on one major assignment that we chose ourselves. Basically, the premise is we would work on lots of little assignments that would combine into one big essay about any topic that we wanted. And so for a couple weeks, all that we did in that class was brainstorm ideas of what we wanted our assignment to be. And for me, that meant sitting around for 2 weeks until the final 10 minutes that I had to decide. We were allowed to have our laptops in class, meaning if we were supposed to be brainstorming for an hour and a half straight, I'd just be working on my video class projects. And it's a good thing because that's when I made my video that blew me up. So it came to the final day that we were supposed to decide what our project was gonna be on. And I had no clue. I knew the teacher was decently chill, and so I could probably get away with kinda whatever as long as I made it decently believable that it's something I cared about. So I don't know how I came up with it, but right then I decided, oh, Pluto should be a planet. We had to pass off the idea with the teacher. He said it was all good, so that's what I was stuck with for the rest of the year. I said this as a complete joke. I didn't know a lot about the topic, but I knew that it was probably pretty set in stone if scientists all over were agreeing that it wasn't a planet anymore. And so throughout that year, I acted like I was determined to prove that Pluto was really a planet and they should change it back. And after hours of research, I actually started to understand what the discussion was all about. Basically, in 1930, Pluto was discovered, and they decided that, of course, it should be a planet. It's a big ball that's floating around in space around the sun. Then, semi-recently, in 2006, the International Astronomical Union decided to hold a vote. This is when they decided to make up rules of what actually makes a planet. And they decided on 4 requirements. First, it has to rotate around the sun. All good on that. Second, it can't be a moon or be revolving around another planet. Third, it has to be nearly round. And fourth, it has to have cleared its orbit. So they held a vote with hundreds of people and decided to knock Pluto off the list, then turning it into a dwarf planet. Now, I had always learned growing up that it was because Pluto was too small or too far away, but no, that's not even close to why they actually demoted it. See, Pluto's orbit goes right into a field of asteroids called the Kuiper Belt, so it could hit a bunch of asteroids at some point, meaning its orbit isn't clear. So after all that research came the hard part. Me, being some 16-year-old kid, had to prove hundreds of scientists wrong. This was a bit later in the year, and I started to realize that maybe I should have focused a little more on picking a better topic. So then I started doing more research on the other end of the spectrum, people that thought Pluto deserved better. And you know, I was kind of surprised actually. There's a solid handful of people, including scientists, that agreed with my point. So I started compiling a list of counter arguments. Number 1, Pluto has an atmosphere. Regular old planets are the only ones to have atmospheres, and now that Pluto's demoted, it's the only dwarf planet known to have one. Number 2, it's got a moon. But not only does Pluto have a moon, it's a pretty significant one. Some people use this as a negative because it's almost as big as Pluto, but I just think it's a plus. Then number 3, what does a clear orbit even mean? Like, sure, it's in an asteroid belt, but there's stuff floating around everywhere in space. Depending on how you look at it, no planet has a cleared orbit. That definition is too sloppy, and I'm not gonna let it pass. And I had a bunch of other random points, but my final one was, it'd just be a good move. Why not? There are Pluto enthusiasts all over the world that were pretty upset when it got demoted. Right now is probably the most important time to get people interested in space, mainly kids who could grow up in the field to some extent. And bringing back Pluto as a planet would be the biggest piece of news in a while. So those were my reasons, and with that, I made this essay. Pluto to be a planet. I remember being pretty proud of this title page here. I think this was an actual picture of Pluto that I messed with in Photoshop, and I think it goes pretty hard. So yeah, you can see that this paper has 31 pages. This is kind of blown out of proportion because this is a combination of all the assignments we did that entire year, basically, including brainstorming, random articles, and some poetry. I don't remember what this says. Let's read it together. Pluto alone. Pluto is no longer a planet, but now we wonder, why can't it? Pluto is plenty big, it's huge, but that dang IAU, what a Scrooge. Who are they to say it's not good enough? Pluto's feeling so alone now. How tough. We have to rise up to the cause to help it escape the IAU's jaws. Pluto even has its own ocean, and it goes into a planetary motion. Dude, that's bars. But it has things in its path, so it faces IAU's wrath. What other points are there to make it not count? Nothing, exactly. So what's the whole deal about? Pluto has all the necessary requirements, just barely falling short on one, so now we're all silent. That doesn't even rhyme, come on. But what's the deal with that? Why isn't it an issue anymore? Maybe it's time that we open back up the door. Pluto can make this epic comeback. Let's join together and attack. The IAU can't stop us all if we wake up to Pluto's call. Can you imagine the hype this would bring? We'd all be celebrating, and the bells of justice would ring. That's crazy. Then, of course, here's the letter to the president. I never got a response on this one. I don't know why. And then going from page 25 to 29, we had the actual essay. Now, I'm not gonna be boring and read all this. I don't think I could if I wanted to. Then at the end, we did a little reflection page, just seeing what we learned over the year taking this class. And looks like I actually admitted that it was a joke. So that was that. I submitted the assignment, then I don't have the proof. But I promise you, I got over 100% on this assignment. I kid you not. I was very, very surprised. Now, I understand that this was a very basic English class, and they had to give most people a pretty decent grade as long as they were trying. But I just think it's so funny that I got extra credit on a joke essay. But at the same time, you can read in this reflection, doing this essay actually convinced me that Pluto should be a planet. I'm serious about this now. After doing all the research, people saying that Pluto shouldn't be a planet are actually really sloppy with how they're defining what a planet is. And after seeing what everyone says on the other end, Pluto did nothing wrong. Like, it got demoted because it didn't have a clear orbit, but genuinely none of the planets do. Sure, it can hit an asteroid or whatever, but who cares? It's still a planet. Earth got hit by an asteroid too. It was a pretty big event. Not only that, but we come into contact with asteroids all the time. I actually care about this topic now. Okay, let me calm down. But yeah, that wrapped up my junior year with a bang. Maybe I'm not the best at writing or researching, but I am actually proud of 16-year-old me. So yeah, rest of high school goes on, graduate, all that. Then I head off to college. And of course, while I'm there, I have another required class, English. This class was for real. The professor was very serious about it all, and we were expected to do good. This was university. But I go into the class, and the professor basically explains how the class is gonna go, saying that the whole semester we're gonna be working on one major assignment of our choosing. It was literally basically the same format as my high school class. And you know, I was all busy with other classes and making music and videos and playing volleyball, so I didn't have time to write a whole new essay. I just copy-pasted the whole thing. Obviously, I had to do lots of revisions because that was kind of the whole point of the stages of the class. But essentially, my first rough draft was literally copy-pasted from junior year. And here is that exact essay, same title and everything. Now, I'm not even gonna read this to see what differences there are, but at the very least, it looks like it's about twice as long, reaching just over 7 pages instead of like 4. And I got a B+ on the assignment. And you know, that was great for me. Here's the comment that the professor wrote. I guess I'm lacking evidence and lots of problems with citations and whatever. I don't care. I guess this is a good time to say, maybe don't copy paste your high school essays for college. Probably wasn't the smartest thing for me to do, but it helped me out at the time. If you want to do good in school, do your work legitimately. Being at school is good for you. I'm trying to set a good example. So that was class number 2 with the same essay. What about the third one? I said that was my last English class ever. This was actually a design class. This background that you've been looking at for half the time, this was the assignment. I realized at that point in time that maybe I wanted to do more graphics-centered work for my career. It obviously didn't end up working out that way, but I'm glad. But yeah, basically for the assignment, we had to use InDesign to make a magazine. See, I've had a lot of experience with the other Adobe programs, but InDesign, I just didn't love. But yeah, I literally copy-pasted paragraphs from that essay into here. Looking back on this, it really doesn't look that good. And I can't find the grades, but I remember passing the class pretty well. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I'm convinced Pluto's a planet now. I hope you are too, but that's not the point of the video. Let me know if you like this style of video. It was a lot more laid back. I had fun with it. And you already know you should go ahead and subscribe.